Right, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Cisco Meraki webinar in conjunction with Insight. I'm delighted to be able to welcome our valued clients to today's presentation. Insight have strategically worked in partnership with Cisco to deliver today's exciting content, and we trust and hope you'll find it beneficial to your organization. I'm Stephen Lester. I'm the Networking Product Manager for Insight in the UK, and it's a great pleasure to welcome you all here today. Today we're going to give you an overview of both Cisco Meraki's cloud-based and Cisco's on-premise wireless solutions, and we're going to explain to you some of the emerging trends in creating a better workforce experience within your own organization. All attendees today will receive a fabulous free Meraki wireless access point, so look out for that at the end for details on how to claim and receive this free gift from Meraki. And also look out at the end for an invitation to attend a further deep dive session into the whole wireless and connected workforce world at one of Cisco's offices, either in Manchester or down here in Bedfont Lakes. So keep an eye out for that invitation, and we look forward to seeing as many of you who are attending today to be able to attend one of those live sessions early next year. So without further ado, it's my pleasure to hand over to Ollie Kenwood, who's going to speak to you around creating a better workforce experience with Cisco technologies. Over to you, Ollie.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Stephen, and afternoon, everybody. Hopefully you're starting to see my my content come through now. Let me just get rid of that one. So yeah, thank you. I've been invited to come and present to you today. Let me just make this slide a bit bigger, actually. So you can see it better. So I work in a solutions team we have here at Cisco. I work with our partner community and our customers to help them understand what it is that Cisco is bringing to market that encompasses the power of all the architectures and the products that we have within those here at Cisco. And one of the conversations we're having at the moment when talking to our clients is around workforce experience. So that's typically about how we see both the workplace, so the physical office, and the workforce, and the devices and the technology they use change and need to evolve considering all the external factors that are happening in the market. So I've only got about 10 minutes to talk to you about that today, but as Stephen said, we're more than happy to host you at one of our offices to give you a bit more insight into the wider story that we're telling there as well. And when we talk about the workplace, when we talk to our customers, both in the IT team, but increasingly so in the HR departments and the facilities department, we see some very common challenges across the board, regardless of industry. We're seeing our customers really look at their real estate and their facilities as their number one or number two costs typically, and really start to look at how they make the most of that. There's an appreciation that when workers are in a physical workplace, that workplace itself has a real impact on their productivity. But actually, there's only a really small number of people that are able to measure how the physical location impacts their productivity. We think about 30% of people. So we're looking at building some technologies and we're able to offer you some technologies that help you understand how people interact with the workplace, how people use different facilities in there, where people reside, how they spend their time, how they interact with different people. Clearly, costs of real estate are absolutely huge. We see that in the press all the time, both commercial and residential. Lots of development going on. I'm sitting in our London office today. If I look out the window, there are cranes everywhere. There's lots of new buildings going up. But actually, people are starting to see utilizations of offices decreasing. Typical office, we think, has about 40% utilization when it comes to desk space. So all our customers are thinking about how do we reconfigure office to make the most of that space that we have? How do we maybe consolidate office space? If any of you have visited our Green Park locations in the past, we used to have 3 buildings on that Green Park estate. We now have 1. We've utilised that in a lot better way, and we've managed to reduce costs by doing that, but also by embracing mobile working. Not everybody needs to be in the office every day to get their work done, and a lot of people we talk to still have workplaces that perhaps represent an older fashion of working. But when you think about your employees, the people you're providing services for, their expectations are changing. The workforce is made up entirely differently than it has been in the past, and we'll look at that in a few slides' time. You combine that with the rapid shift of technology, and we'll look at some of those technologies today, and our colleagues will show you the Meraki dashboard and how that works. Things like cloud, mobility, security, video, software-defined networking are absolutely revolutionizing that world of technology. That means that we can provide the functionality, the applications, the usage that employees want and expect to use to get their job done in ways that we couldn't before. That helps us solve a lot of these workplace and workforce challenges as well. The next few slides are actually slides that come from a consultant called Gallup. They do an annual survey of employees and workforces around the globe. And as you can see, for me, this is a really powerful slide. They're saying that actually anything up to 87% of employees in a workforce, they term disengaged to some degree. Now, to put some metrics, I guess, around those three terms you see on the slide there, for Gallup, an engaged employee is someone who is absolutely invested in the mission of their business. They turn up to work full of passion. They are there, they're committed, they're driving forward with innovation and completely motivated to get their job done. They think those people only make up 13% of today's workforce. You'll see the bulk of people in that disengaged category, and they are folk who turn up, they collect their paychecks, they invest maybe some time in their work, they're not as fully engaged and motivated as those in that smaller green slice of the pie, but they're still in a better place than those who are actively disengaged, and they are people who actively spread discontentment throughout the workplace. And they're not happy with their environment, they're not happy with their role, and actually they're a negative factor on other people. That has a big financial impact on UK companies. We think just one disengaged employee costs an organisation about a third of their salary, so just over £5,000 for every £16,000 they earn. And if we multiply that by the sort of the number of employees in the UK, Gallup are thinking somewhere between 50 billion and 70 billion pounds a year annually is lost due to lower motivation and productivity levels. If any of you are aware of the UK productivity puzzle, this is a huge challenge for the UK and for the UK government as we look to make the UK a more efficient company from a productivity perspective. We saw once the recession was over, other developed countries regain and improve their productivity at a higher level than UK companies have. And I think some of the technologies you hear about today and some of the capabilities that we're able to deliver are absolutely there to help drive individual productivity by giving them access to applications wherever they are in a secure way and fast access to getting work done and being closer to customers. You might ask, why does that matter? Why do I care if my employees are engaged or disengaged? And it has a real impact on the bottom line and the top line of our companies. Again, Gallup are saying about 1.5 times higher earnings per share where you have a significant number more engaged employees than disengaged, and that reflects in profitability. It reflects in the attraction and retention of talent. I'm sure all of you are aware of the battle for talent there is out there, both in attracting new graduates from universities, from colleges, from other companies, but also trying to retain those good employees that you have and the knowledge that they have as well. And that's really important when we think about the makeup of today's workforce. So where we are now, we're still seeing the bulk of the workforce are those baby boomers and Generation X. They make up over 70% of today's workforce compared to the millennials and Generation Z, who are just over 20%. That's significantly going to change in the next few years, and we'll start to see those millennials and Generation Z make up about half the workforce. Now, each of these sets of people, they expect entirely different things, both in terms of how they work and the technology that's available to them. If you think about those two groups at the bottom of the chart, they're not bound by email or location. They've grown up expecting access to technology regardless of where they are. If there's a technology not put in place for them by an organization, they will find a way to get work done, whether that's social messaging, access to applications, access to internet, onboarding devices. They are not used to not being able to have access to resources and tools that they need to do things versus your baby boomers and Generation X, who are more likely to value, let's say, FaceTime with their boss. They're quite happy to be in a more office-y environment. And actually, the tools that we employ need to be able to tackle the needs of each of those workers. And they're all equally as important as each other. If you think about those people who are more experienced in the workplace, they have many years of experience, they have lots of knowledge that a company will want to retain and be able to pass on before that's lost. Equally, we want that new way of working, the enthusiasm, the talent, and the skills of those people who are just coming out of education and into a workplace who will make up that next generation for your companies as well. And you'll see about some of the technologies today that can help enable each one of those in the right way. Outside of that, the demographic information, just what we see happening, there are some wider trends. You will all be aware of those. I don't think there's anything new here, but just the explosion of devices. We think at Cisco, people have somewhere between 3 and 4 devices they bring into work every day. Personally, I have my laptop, I've got an iPad in my bag, I've got an Apple Watch, and I have a phone in my pocket, right? So I've got 4 devices today, and at some point, each of those will connect to my corporate network and will be accessing some sort of information and application that I use to get my job done. We're also looking at things like different evolving social contracts, so how companies employ people, how can they provide flexible contracts for people, job sharing, ways of keeping, maybe people are going on maternity leave and coming back to work, or enabling them to work in different ways, keeping hold of different types of talent and knowledge in the organization. Consumer-driven IT is absolutely nothing new, but people are expecting to work from their device of choice, whether that's bring your own device or corporate. And then my final slide, and again, we're happy to delve into each of these in more detail at a further point for you, is really around the 3 key pillars that we talk about when we talk about workforce experience. And number 1 is just how we look to transform the workplace. If any of you are fortunate to have been to Meraki's new office in London, they have a fantastic, modern, open working space environment that has different layouts depending on the type of job you're looking to do. It makes being in the office a very attractive place to go. It makes the attraction and retention of talent really easy when people are competing for technology workers. So being able to optimize, analyze and understand a work environment is really, really important. I think we'll spend most time on this middle section today, and that's around enabling a digital workforce. So how do we help people connect to applications, to their colleagues, regardless of where they are, regardless of that device of choice? We need to be able to understand whether it's a corporate device. We might have different rules for that. If it's a bring your own device, or increasingly what I'm seeing with customers, a mix of those along with a choose your own device policy. Increasingly seeing things like wearables coming into the workforce, having to manage those as well, but also around location. People will often these days move from an office environment to a home office to a partner site, any number of locations they can be connecting from, but we should be able to provide a seamless experience across all of those. And then also when we think about the applications, how do you guys as IT staff for your companies make sure that people have the applications that they need to get their job done? And by applications, mobile applications, we're looking here at beyond things like email and calendaring into the world of collaboration. When we looked at those different workforce types earlier, things like project working, things like instant messaging and collaboration, people might not be in the office as much as they were before necessarily, but they still want to be connected to people. So being able to provide face-to-face, simple-to-use video, as an example, is a really good technology to be looking at there. While we say all those things, security has to retain top of mind. So the idea of policy networking, and I'm sure the Meraki folk will give you some demonstrations of what they can do in that space. So the ability to have visibility and provide security regardless of where and how people are working is incredibly important. And the last one is how we deliver flawless and effective meetings. That doesn't have to be in the office environment, but the ability to provide things like high definition video from, we have a phrase, from pocket to boardroom. So whether or not you pick up your iPhone or you walk into a telepresence facility or an in-room meeting facility, how can we just make that sort of technology really easy to use, the ability to share files, to interact with people, and to do that in a really consistent manner regardless of device or location is increasingly important. As you'll all be aware, if technology is difficult to use, it won't be used. So the ability to provide high quality engagements in a really simple way is increasingly important. And we've got some fantastic demo facilities at all our offices to show you just how we do that. I will pause on that note and I'll pass you back to the Meraki team, who are going to show you some demonstrations of their capabilities as well.
Thanks, Ollie. So my name is Jackie Roy. I'm one of the marketing managers here at Cisco Meraki, and I want to talk through a few slides really quickly before I actually spend the majority of today's time in a live demo. So first and foremost, we're talking about the evolving workplace. What did things used to look like? Where do we want them to go in the future? So in the past, you have this complex idea of what your network looks like. You have multiple different sites, highly complex systems, millions of users, millions of smart devices all accessing the network. You're worried about security. You're worried about making sure your employees have access to the assets and the resources they need. And you're also worried about how do you partition the work devices versus the personal devices and keep everything, as I said, secure the entire way. While also then prioritizing things like mission critical traffic with quality of service rules versus recreational traffic. Well, this is what the next generation of Wi-Fi architecture actually looks like. You have all of these different sites, the headquarters, the distribution centers, branches, etc., connected back via the cloud. And in the cloud, you have access to the Meraki dashboard, which is where you're going to be actually configuring and monitoring what exactly has been happening with your entire network infrastructure. Also within that dashboard view, you can see all of the different applications that are being used, the different customers that are accessing the different devices, etc., and then apply rules and apply policies based on that usage and what's optimal for your particular company. So how does this all factor in? How does Meraki factor into this idea of a next-gen workplace environment? Well, for those of you who are unfamiliar with Meraki, we are a 100% cloud-managed networking company. We have 4 main product lines that you can see on the right-hand side of the screen here. We have indoor and outdoor access points, 802.11n as well as 802.11ac. We have enterprise security appliances made for the branch all the way up to large core campus deployments. We have access as well as aggregation switching. And we also have mobile device management. Now, the dashboard, which is a screenshot you see on the right-hand side of the screen there, that is where you're going to actually be managing and monitoring every aspect of your network. And our engineers have worked really hard at integrating the hardware with the cloud services as well as the software aspect. And we've won innovation awards for this from Gartner Magic Quadrant, InfoWorld's Technology of the Year Award, and we've even been named one of CRN's coolest technologies. Now, Meraki is a leader in cloud-managed networking. We are among Cisco's fastest-growing portfolios, seeing over 100% year-over-year annual growth. And we have hundreds of thousands of customers around the world, including a handful that you see at the bottom of the screen here, in a lot of different industries. So, for instance, restaurant and retail, you have Pete's Coffee and Tea, as well as United Colors of Benetton. In education, MIT, as well as Bremerton School District. Hospitality, Motel 6, which is a North American hotel chain. They have 70,000 hotel rooms, all being managed as part of one person's job. And then Telmex, which is a nationwide hotspot and 3G offload network in Mexico. Now, we also have tens of millions of devices connected worldwide to each of these networks. So whether you have a small deployment or whether you have a large global deployment, the Meraki solution can be an ideal fit for you. These are some of the benefits of cloud-managed networking. It's a completely out-of-band control plane. No end-user traffic passes through the cloud. Only managing and monitoring data passes through the cloud, and it's about 1 kilobit per second per device, so very minimal impact on your overall network bandwidth usage. It's also very reliable. We have data centers around the world, including 3 right here in the EU in Frankfurt, Munich, and Dublin. And what that means for our EU customers is that when you create your Meraki organization in dashboard, you simply choose that you're part of the EMEA region, and it ensures that your data is going to remain at one of those 3 EU data centers and be compliant with EU privacy laws. It's also highly secure, so Meraki is PCI version 3.0 compliant. In fact, Meraki itself is level 1 certified, which is the highest level of PCI certification. And we do run automatic firmware and security tests daily to ensure that ongoing security. You can find out more at meraki.cisco.com/trust. So now I want to spend a bit of time actually in a live demonstration. So give me one moment. I'm going to switch over here to a Chrome window. And I've logged into dashboard.meraki.com, entered in my credentials, and I'm taken to this overview screen here of my entire organization. Now, as you can see, in terms of having a connected mobile work experience, this is the Meraki organization. We have offices around the globe in Sydney, in London, in San Francisco. We have teleworker units in Europe as well as in North America. And all of that is displayed on the screen here. Now, the colors here are indicating the overall health of the network. So here you can see the red icons are showing that there's an unhealthy network. The green is showing good and healthy. And I can go ahead and click into any one of these networks and find out more information. I'm going to zoom into our San Francisco office here and see what's going on. We see a lot of red icons, and that's actually quite typical for us, and that's because our engineering team sits about 20 feet away from us, and they're constantly using our worldwide networks as a bit of a test bed. They're making sure that all of the features, the firmware upgrades that we release are completely baked and ready to go before ever entering the customer experience. Now I can click into the networks from this page here, or I can also expand out this view here and see a full listing of all of the different networks that we have within this larger organization. The other thing I want to point out here is that because this is supposed to be an always-on experience for you and for your customers, we want to make sure that your networks are always up to date. Now, with the Meraki system, you buy the device itself and then the license associated with it. And that license gives you access to 24/7 support. We have our support teams that sit with us in our London, Sydney, and San Francisco locations, and they are here 24/7 to help you. That license is also going to provide you with all future firmware upgrades and all future feature releases, essentially giving you a completely future-proof solution. So if I give you an example here, a smartphone, for instance, back in the late 90s, early 2000s, Nokia was a huge, huge brand, and they had a wonderful phone. I had several of their phones. I love them. But it's not really a brand that you hear too much about anymore, especially in the phone field. So what happened? Well, now you have the Androids, you have the iPhones. And the interesting thing with those types of smartphones is that every time there's a new operating system update, anytime you're going from, let's say, or upgrading to iOS 9 or to Marshmallow for Android, you're essentially getting a brand new device in your hands without paying anything. And that's kind of the same model that we have here. So anytime there's a new feature release, anytime there's a new firmware upgrade, we automatically make that available to you. You log into Dashboard, you see a banner image at the top of the page, you'll get an email, etc. And you can choose to schedule that update at a time that's convenient for you to make sure that it's not disrupting your overall network usage. So that's a great aspect here of keeping your network always up to date, making sure that your clients are always connected without disruption. Now, also on this list here, you're going to see a full listing of all the different networks we have. We have over 200 networks within this organization, and over the last week, you can see that they've transferred over 52 terabytes worth of data. Now, down here, you can see the overall usage in the client by network, and I'm going to go ahead and click into our Meraki corporate network here. That's our San Francisco location. And I do want to point out that right now I'm sitting in our London office and I'm managing our San Francisco office. That's how simple this is. It's completely cloud-based. You don't have to be on site in order to see what's happening with your network halfway across the world. Heaven forbid you're sitting on a beach on your vacation and have a network issue, but if you do, you can simply log in with your mobile app to Dashboard and resolve that issue all while sitting on the beach. It takes a matter of seconds and you're up and running again in no time. Now, this client overview page is a great way to see what's going on with your network and figure out how you want to optimize your network for all the different clients, all the different applications that are being used in your network. You have this bandwidth chart at the top here. You have this pie chart that's indicating all the different applications that are contributing to that overall bandwidth usage. And you also have a full client list here of both wired and wireless devices. Now, it's a lot of different clients, over nearly 2,500 client devices. You can come in here, you can search on a particular client. So if I want to find a particular client that maybe has raised a case, I can search on them. Or I can search on maybe our printers. Let's say somebody is saying they can't print. Well, I can search on the printer, I can click into any of these devices, find out more information. If you're upgrading your operating systems, I can even search on something like Mac OS X and find out all of my devices that are running this particular operating system, see if we need to upgrade any of them, etc. And once again, you can click into any of these devices from this particular page. So if I move back to that one particular client that might be having issues, I can click into this client's device, see a lot of different information. And the best part is not only can you see information about this client, but you can also add them to different group policies. So if you have in your organization different groups of employees that are in charge of different things, maybe they need to have access to different types of resources, maybe you need to prioritize certain applications for them, you can do this very easily. So on this client page, I can come down here to this device policy and actually say I want to add them to a particular group policy. So whether they are a network abuser, I can add them to a BitTorrent or block gaming group policy, or I can add them to, let's say, a contractors or an accounting group policy that's then going to make sure that this particular client and all other clients that are part of this contractors or accounting group have access to the resources that they need, so specifically for them. So let's take a look at how you actually assign those group policies. So if I come up over here to network wide, I can click on group policies here. And then one of the best parts about the Meraki solution is that it's complete end-to-end management. So you have management over the network side itself, as well as all the way out to the end user devices via Systems Manager, which is that mobile device management platform. So here you have the different group policies, and I'm going to show you how those two sides, the network and the device itself, link together in just a moment. But here you have all the different group policies. We were talking about the contractors group here. So in here, I can name the group. I can actually set a schedule to say that this particular group policy is only active during certain times of the day. Very simple to do that. I can scroll down here and very easily set layer 3 or layer 7 firewall rules, or even layer 7 traffic shaping rules on the application level. So it allows you to be very granular. And the thing I want you to notice here is that there's no command line interface. So it's very simple to do. You're going to see a series of radio buttons, drop-down menus, fill in the blanks, etc. So it's incredibly intuitive to use for you. You don't have to have any additional training to do this. So if I wanted to add a traffic shaping rule, you'll see that our engineers have actually fingerprinted many of these for you. So I can simply come over here to add. I can type in the custom expression in this box over here, or I can simply drop down and say for peer-to-peer applications or social web and photo sharing, things like Facebook or MySpace, Instagram, etc. I can add these applications in and then simply throttle that bandwidth access down. So you're not blocking access to these particular recreational applications. You're just making sure they're not going to hog all the bandwidth on your network. Conversely, I can come and add another traffic shaping rule. Scroll down to the bottom of the page here for, let's say, VoIP and video conferencing. Select all. And then I can actually prioritize and say, I want to ignore any client limits. I want to make this unlimited. And maybe I even want to set a priority DSCP tag. So now we're really prioritizing this type of traffic to make sure that your clients are getting the exact resources that they need and are not being bogged down, let's say, with recreational applications. Also, if I scroll down a little bit further, you're going to see some further wireless and security appliance only settings that you can set on a per user level here. But what about as a group as a whole? So let's say you don't necessarily want to set per employee restrictions or per group policy. Well, you can come down here to the wireless section and do the same thing for firewall and traffic shaping on an SSID level. But before we talk about that, I want to show you how we can link both the wireless side here, the network side, to that end user device. So we have something over here called Sentry Policies right under Group Policies. If I click on that, this is going to show you that you can have Systems Manager, which we can go to in just a minute. So Systems Manager here, you have your client list. And on your client list, you can actually tag devices. Now, tagging is an organizational tool for you. You can tag your devices to say, these are all the employees on the 7th floor. These are all the employees on the 8th floor. Or you can say, this is the accounting department. This is the IT department, etc. Once you have these tags in place, then you can say, anybody that's part of our Systems Manager network that has a tag of, let's say, Cisco or maybe accounting, things like that, I can add them to this group. And then you can also see that there's a further tag here called compliant devices. So security compliant devices. This is something that you can set up on the Systems Manager side, essentially saying that if we're running a security posture on each of these devices, saying that let's say they have a passcode enabled and they have encrypted device, this, that, and the other thing, all of the things that essentially make a device secure, then we're going to go ahead and allow them corporate access. And that's what this policy is. This policy over here, these are the group policies that we were just taking a look at. So here we're linking the Systems Manager MDM groupings to particular group policies on the network side. So this is that integration, end-to-end integration from device all the way to the network. And we'll take a further look at some of these tags in just a moment. But for now, let's jump back to wireless and take a look at the firewall and traffic shaping page. It's going to be very similar to what we just looked at on the group policy. But again, instead of looking at per users, this is looking at SSIDs overall. So here you have the layer 3 firewall rules. You have layer 7 firewall rules as well. So you can do things like type in the custom expression here, or you can add things like peer-to-peer applications, choose all peer-to-peer, or choose the ones that our engineers have actually fingerprinted for you. You can add as many of these rules as you want. The way they work is they start at the top rule and they work their way down until they see that a user actually satisfies one of these rules, and then they block them from that further point onto the network. Also down here, you see traffic shaping policies that you can, again, enable as many of these as you want. And you see you simply choose which SSID you'd like to affect, and that's it. That's as simple as it is. Now, what about how users are actually accessing your network as a whole? Well, that's going to be over here on the wireless access control page. Again, this is done on a per SSID level. You have a lot of different options to play around with here. For guests, you can have a guest network, you can have a contractor network, you can have an employee network, etc., a secure network. You simply choose which SSID. You say whether you want to have open, whether you want to have WPA2 enterprise. If you want a splash page, you have a lot of different options here. You can do sign on with SMS authentication. You can do sign on with Active Directory, LDAP radius, even Facebook Wi-Fi. That's great for passive brand awareness. Essentially, users have to like or check into your Facebook page in order to access the network. And then you can further customize this by activating things like captive portal, even walled garden, etc. Now, in order to configure some of the more complex things, so if you've ever configured radius authentication before, it's not the worst thing in the world, but it does require you to be pretty precise. I can't tell you the number of customers I've talked to in the past at trade shows who say they've configured radius authentication, they're fairly certain they have everything right, but it just doesn't work. And they spend hours troubleshooting only to find that they entered in one of the digits incorrectly, maybe in the host or the secret. Well, if you can see up here, we've selected WPA2 Enterprise with my Radius server. Once you've selected that, you'll see a section down here for Radius server that is now populated on this page. And it's simply a matter of typing in the host, the port, and the secret. And then you can even test it right here. That eliminates that risk of entering in something incorrectly. You're testing it, you're making sure everything works properly. That's as simple as it is. And we talked about Systems Manager a second ago, that mobile device management platform. Here's another aspect that you can incorporate into your network to make sure that your network is remaining secure. That's called Systems Manager Sentry. You're essentially saying that anybody that's trying to access our corporate SSID must have Systems Manager installed on their devices. And in order to access the network, they have to have this installed and therefore are going to be subject to the rules and the restrictions that you have set on your Systems Manager restrictions page. So we'll talk again about that in just a moment, the Systems Manager side. But the point here is that no matter what type of workplace you have, you can use the Meraki solution, whether it's the network side or the MDM side, to completely configure and enable your workforce to be better prepared throughout the day. So whether you want to change restrictions at certain hours of the day, you can do that. Whether you want certain employee groups to have different access to different resources, you can do that. You can also enable things like receptionists, for instance, who give out guest passes for Wi-Fi. You can enable them to do that in dashboard here. Essentially, we have role-based administration, which means that you can have a lot of different admins that have access to your network. And you're simply saying that I want this particular admin to have access to this section of my dashboard account. So you can really partition it out and allow users to take control of various aspects of the network that are going to impact them. Now, I don't have too much time. I have probably about 5 to 10 more minutes that I can chat with you about the Meraki solution. So I'm not going to be able to cover all of the demo that I want to today, but all that means is that you can contact your Meraki reps, your Insight reps, your Cisco reps, whichever one that you're more comfortable talking with, and have them run you through a custom demo that's going to be specific to your needs. So as I said, this is just a high-level look, but there's so much more that we can dive into, and your partner and Cisco can definitely help you customize your needs for the solution. So over here, we have our switches page. I do want to cover a few things on our switching page before I move over to mobile device management. So our switches, we have virtual stacking as well as physical stacking switches. Now, virtual stacking is essentially what we're going to be looking at here in just a moment once the page loads. It's the ability to see every single switch port in your network all on one page, and not just see all those switch ports, but actually configure them and change them all remotely. So keep in mind, once again, I'm sitting in our London office working on our San Francisco headquarters location. So in here, we see all these different switch ports, nearly 3,500 switch ports here. And what I can do is I can search on a variety of different things. I can say I want to look at all of the switch ports that have an MR18 access point plugged into them. Well, I can simply come up here to that search bar and type in MR18, and now I see all of the switch ports that have an MR18 plugged into them. I can look at all of these switch ports that are access ports by simply typing in is access. Or let's say I want to specifically look at ports 5 through 6 on every single switch that we have in our network. So that narrows me down from 3,500 switch ports to about 154. And what I can do is simply select all. and then click edit and edit them in aggregate. So on this page here, you can enable these switch ports. This is going to be great if you have, let's say, VoIP phones in a conference room. You can say that at certain times of the day, I want that VoIP phone enabled. And during evening hours or on weekends, I actually want to disable that VoIP phone. That is going to do a lot for you in terms of reducing that window of exposure and having somebody unplug the Ethernet cable from that phone, plug it into their own device, and hack into your network. So that's great for the security side here. And you can do that very easily. So here you're going to see two options, port scheduling and access policy. These two features you're going to enable on a per port level, but you're actually going to configure them on a different page. So here you can do something like energy savings for port scheduling. So this is essentially saying that these ports are only going to be active during certain times of the day. You can also enable access policies, which is essentially wired authentication. You're going to link this with a radius authentication so that users, once again, if they plug that Ethernet cable into their own device, are going to have to enter in their radius credentials. You can even do things like port isolation, enable port isolation. A great example there is the hotel, where you have all those different hotel rooms, all with different Ethernet ports in those rooms. Instead of assigning different VLANs for all of them, you can simply enable port isolation. It's that simple to do. You can also do things like enable BPDU guard. So great options here to streamline your network and keep it secure as well. Now, in order to actually configure those access policies and the port schedules that I just talked about, you simply come over here to this separate page. We already took a look at how easy it is to enter that radius credential, but that's it. That's as simple as it is. If you do have a legacy VoIP phone where you cannot enter in radius credentials, you can simply bypass authentication for those legacy VoIP phones. That easy to do. And once again, on the port schedules, we saw a similar page when we were looking at the group policies. You're simply going to use the port schedules here to schedule when you want these particular ports to be active. It's going to save a lot of energy in the evening hours or on the weekends whenever they're not enabled. And again, it's also going to reduce that window of exposure, so you're reducing that security threat to your network. Now, the last thing here before MDM is our security appliance. Now, on our security appliance, you have a lot of different options, and I do want to highlight a couple things here. We have I'm not going to lie, it's quite possibly the most elegant site-to-site VPN that I've seen in the industry. In 3 mouse clicks, you can configure your site-to-site VPN. Now, yes, this is our application overview page for our security appliance. We have lovingly nicknamed our security appliance Godzilla. But as this next page loads for site-to-site VPN, you're going to see just how easy it is to connect this particular security appliance to, let's say, teleworker units. Very easy. You simply choose whether you want hub and spoke model. It's up to you. So if I choose the spoke model here, whether you want split tunnel or full tunnel, and then once you do that, you have your subnets down here in this full list. And it's as simple as saying yes or no. Yes or no, do I want this subnet to be broadcast across my VPN connection? That's as easy as it is. You can also configure this if I scroll down to the bottom of the page here with third-party non-Meraki VPN peers. So if you do have other VPN peers in your network, you can easily attach those to this model here. But as I mentioned, this is fantastic for those teleworker units or those teleworker employees. And then if you want to monitor all those VPN connections, you can come over here to the VPN status page, and you're going to see a lot of great information here. You're going to see the usage, the latency, the peers, the subnets, etc., the connectivity. You can see a latency here. You can even see a histogram of latency over time. And then you see this ring chart up here, and this is going to show you the amount of the bandwidth and the connection that each one of these VPN peers is actually using. So you can see here that we have a lot of tiny teleworker units, as well as the larger sections here that are connecting all of our large branches together across the world. So a great place to just monitor what's happening with your overall VPN connection. It really does allow you to be proactive with network management instead of reactive once someone reports a particular issue. So there's a lot more options here on our site-to-site VPN. You can also set up things like configuration templates. That's something I do want to point out very quickly here. A great way to save time when you do have a lot of, let's say, teleworker units. So here we have our teleworker appliance. We have 30 different networks that are bound to this particular template. So what that means is that you have all these different MX teleworker devices distributed around the world. And instead of having to go in and manually configure each one of those different devices, each one of those different MX devices, you can simply tether it to a template. And every time you update this particular template, all the different options here, it's going to then automatically update those 30 different networks, or 30 different devices that are bound to this particular template. So that reduces your configuration time from hours or days or weeks down to a matter of minutes. It's very, very simple to do. Another thing I want to point out that's going to help you as you're trying to scale out your network deployment, whether you have one site or hundreds or thousands of sites, is on our switching side here. You can clone configurations on our switches. So once you've spent 10, 15 minutes configuring a particular switch, well, let's say you have 20 more switches to do. You don't want to spend another 20 minutes on every single switch. So what you can do is select all of those newly added switches, whether it's 1 or 2 or 3 switches. Sorry, I didn't mean to click into that. Once you select these switches, you can simply come up here to clone and say, I want to clone this switch to be exactly like that of another switch. So let's say switch 5.3.04. And once I click on clone, this new switch will have the identical configurations to this pre-configured switch. Very easy to do and to stay on top of your overall network. All right, very quickly at the end of today's webinar, I just want to point out our Systems Manager section here, and then I want to spend about 5 minutes on some slides recapping some of the things that I talked about and giving you an idea of some things that I have not talked about yet. So this is our full client list for all of the different end user devices that we have enrolled in our MDM profile, our Systems Manager profile here. So this is the full list. You can see that you can tag all of these different devices. If I just add in this tagged section here. So if I scroll over now, you're going to see all the different tags for these devices, employee, asset, things like that. And then over here on Systems Manager side, you can set different settings. You can push out apps remotely, just tethered to your iTunes Store, your Google Play Store, things like that. And you can push out apps remotely to those devices. So mission critical business applications, push them directly out to the end users that need them. Again, it provides that seamless idea of that connected work environment. Also on here, you can set profile restrictions. So if you have devices that you don't want to allow, let's say, to take pictures, you're in a secure environment where you don't want users to be able to take pictures of things around them, you can allow the use of the camera on the device. You can even lock a device in single app mode. You have all of these different options that are available to you, a full list of them. You can also do things like do client VPN here directly back to, let's say, our San Francisco headquarters location. You can also automatically associate with certain SSIDs. You can use an option called Backpack to push out things like PDFs or different resources to end user devices. And then also on Systems Manager, we were talking about security policies. And our security policies, we saw this when we were talking about linking the group policies and the Systems Manager policies together under Sentry Policies. But here you can say, if a device has these particular things enabled, then they are compliant with our security policies. We're running a posture test on each of these devices to make sure they are always in compliancy with what we want for security. So screen lock, login required, things like that. And then the best part too is that you have geofencing rules here. So if you have a device that's supposed to maintain its location at your work environment, well, what you can do is set up a geofenced area saying that if that device leaves the building, then we can remove certain applications or certain resources on that particular device. And you can have a grace period, so if it wanders out for just a minute or two and then comes back in, it won't wipe the device. But otherwise, if it leaves this area, it can remove applications. If it enters in the area, then it adds applications. So you have a lot of power right at your fingertips to make your employees essentially empowered throughout their entire day. So I'm going to move back here to our PowerPoint presentation. Again, I want to take just a couple minutes to talk through some slides about different things that you can do that I might not have talked about. On our switching side, these switches are powered so that they can support the most rigorous 802.11 AC wireless demands. We also, on our switching, have the CDP and LLDP support, as well as quality of service rules for voice and video trafficking. Again, we have a lot of analytics, I couldn't think of the word, analytics built into our dashboard so you can see what's happening with your network. We've partnered with CMX here, so we have CMX location analytics to see the number of users that are actually connecting to your network, how long they're staying connected. Is this the first time they've logged into your network? So you can watch the trends coming and going within your entire network. You can see the different applications that are being used. You can also set up emailed reports to be automatically sent to you every once in a while, every week, depending on what your needs are. We talked already about the wired splash. We also have wired splash with Facebook login. We talked about Facebook login on the wireless side. And then retail analytics. Retail analytics, which is a CMX side here, you're going to get that on all wireless enabled devices. So our wireless access points, as well as our MX64W, which is the industry's first 802.11ac unified threat management device. Now, this is a big one, avoiding downtime and client disruption. We have warm spare failovers on our switches. So you have two switches sharing a virtual IP address, both sharing the layer 2 responsibilities. If one of those switches should go down, the layer 3 responsibilities will seamlessly be routed over to the backup switch, and your end users will never experience an outage at all, and you'll automatically receive a notification letting you know that something has happened with your network. You have a lot of automatic alerts that you can configure to your needs. We also have OSPF routing, DHCP services, as well as the data center failover for the security appliance as well. Now, this is a quick slide talking about that security posturing and how different user devices are actually going to be accessing your network. So essentially, when a user device, let's say a smartphone, tries to access the network, it's going to try and log in and touch the access point. The access point is going to ask Systems Manager a few different questions. Do they satisfy our security posturing? Are they supposed to automatically associate with this particular SSID, etc.? And based on these different security posturing questions and the results from that security posture, then that access point, the MDM, can route that device onto, let's say, corporate resources, or maybe onto a BYOD group policy. Or if they fail all of the security posturing, maybe you can route them on just simply to a highly secure guest network where they won't have access to any corporate resources whatsoever. Bandwidth consumption, we talked about this very limitedly at the beginning of today's session. You have the ability to see all the different applications in your network. So if I jump back here to our client list, I'm going to leave this page. We saw that pie chart over here in the corner. And what you can actually do is expand this pie chart out, sort on usage, and see all the top applications that are being used in your network and which ones are top corporate applications, which one are recreational applications, and then adjust your network settings as you see fit to make sure that no one application is hogging all of the bandwidth or no one user is hogging all of the bandwidth. And then I also talked about this idea of rich integrated analytics. We try to give you as deep visibility as possible within Dashboard. You're going to see a lot of hyperlinks within Dashboard. Essentially, there's no right or wrong way to navigate through Dashboard. We want you to feel comfortable in finding all the different information that you need. And then this is just a quick note about the feature updates, the firmware upgrades that are automatically included with that license. This is just a capture of some of the new features and firmware upgrades that we have released over the past few years on each of the different product lines. So for instance, on MDM, you have things like the backpack file management. You have the geofencing rules. On the wireless side, you have Air Marshal, which is wireless intrusion detection and prevention. You have Wi-Fi with Facebook login. For security appliances, the group policies that we talked about, the hub and spoke VPN. And last on the switches, we have things like the port scheduling, the aggregation switching, etc. And once again, I do want to point out that Meraki is a complete full stack solution. So no matter what you need for your infrastructure, from wireless to security to mobile device management, it's all under one single pane of glass. We saw that in Dashboard. On the left-hand side there, you have options to configure your switching, your security, your wireless, as well as your MDM. So that's all of the content I had for today. I want to pass it back off to Stephen, who's going to wrap up with this last slide here. And then we're going to save some time at the end for Q&A.
Thank you very much there, Jackie. Thanks again to everybody from our client base for attending the session today, and we sincerely hope you found it useful and informative and of benefit to your organisation. Please try the free access points that you're going to receive as being part of an attendee today, and let us know your feedback on it. And if you're interested in attending one of the focus days we'll be hosting early next year, either in Manchester, Didsbury, or at Bedfont Lakes down here in the south, then look out for the invitation for that. That'll be coming to you after Christmas. We will further explore a lot of the topics that Jackie and Oliver talked on today, give you some live demos, and deep dive much further into the Cisco Meraki solution. So please do keep an eye out for the emails and mailers inviting you to these exciting events in the new year. So thank you again for everybody for attending today. If anybody has any further questions, then please feel free to contact me at the address that's on screen now, or contact your Insight account manager. So thanks again for everybody's attention today. And if anyone has any Q&As they'd like to do now, then feel free.
Thanks, Stephen. And one more thing that I did want to point out, in order to get that free access point, you simply need to contact your Meraki representative. They'll be able to just verify your shipping information, your eligibility, and get that free access point sent out to you as soon as possible. You can find their contact information in the reminder email you received for today's webinar, or you can reach out at meraki.cisco.com/form/contact. So if anybody has questions, we'll stay on the line for just a few more minutes and take a look at some of those questions. A great question here from Simon is asking when IWAN is going to be fully available. And in terms on the Meraki side, that's going to be full release over the next couple months. So do stay in tune for that. Great question here, asking if we're going to be losing any functionality if you only go with the wireless solution. And the answer to that is a little bit of yes and a little bit of no. More or less, all the features that we talked about on the wireless side are going to be fully available to you if you just go with the wireless part. Some parts that you will lose out on if you only go with wireless and let's say not MDM are the Sentry policies that we talked about. So essentially linking the MDM in with the wireless side. But that's about it. There are some additional crossover points when you do have the full stack solution, but most of the features that we did talk about today in terms of the wireless will be fully available to you. And I also do want to point out in terms of the Meraki MDM, we do have a free trial on that MDM for up to 100 devices. So up to 99 devices are going to be completely covered and free for MDM if you do want to try that out in your network. And we do offer free trials on all of the Meraki gear. We'll pay for shipping both ways in the EU and even provide you with complimentary technical assistance to get you up and running even faster. So I do encourage you, if you have questions, you kind of want to try things out in your own environment. I encourage you to get that free access point for attending today's webinar. And B, do chat with your Meraki representative, your Insight representative, to request a free trial. There is honestly no downside to it. Try it out in your own environment and see what works for you. Again, you can schedule time with one of the Insight or Meraki reps to run through a full demo that's going to be customized to your needs. Great question here. Does wireless support Bonjour Gateway? And the answer to that is yes, it does. That's simply on the access control page. If you scroll down to the bottom of the page on access control on the wireless side, you'll see the Bonjour options there. And if for some reason we didn't get to any of your questions today that you might have been asking, we will be forwarding these questions onto your Meraki representatives as well as onto the Insight representative. So if we didn't answer them today in the webinar, we'll definitely have those reps follow up with you and answer your specific questions afterwards. All right, well, I think that's all the questions that have been coming in. Again, if you find that you have further questions after today's webinar, please do not hesitate to get in touch with either your Insight or your Meraki or your Cisco representative. Any of these reps will be more than happy to help you and answer all the questions you might have. Last question came in here, and then we'll answer this and then head on out and give everybody a few minutes back in your day. Is there integration with non-Meraki switches? And the answer to that is yes. All the Meraki devices do integrate well with other vendors' devices, including Cisco on-premise devices. It's simply a management style here for you to choose. That being said, you're only going to be able to manage the Meraki devices via the Meraki dashboard. So while they will play well together, you won't be able to manage the non-Meraki devices via dashboard. And then last question, I lied. One more question that did come in. What happens if you lose connectivity to the internet for whatever reason? Your network will actually continue to operate with the last known standards that you applied to those devices. And then as soon as that connection is reestablished, and as soon as connection is reestablished up to the cloud, Any configuration changes that you made in dashboard during that outage will be automatically pushed out to those devices, and any device or any information that was stored on the devices will then be resynced up to the cloud. So you shouldn't be losing any data there, and users will still be able to connect to the network even if you should lose connectivity to the cloud. So that's about all the time we have for today. I want to give everybody a few minutes back in your day. Once again, thank you everybody for attending today's webinar, and I hope everyone here has a wonderful rest of your day.